Hello and welcome to Career Talk. I'm Lee Hopwood, the CEO at the CCMA and your host for today's Career Talk. Now, Career Talk is where I chat with contact centre professionals about their career journey so far. Now, they've all got loads of careers ahead of them as well, but it's great to find out where they've been so far. And the purpose of that is really to inspire those that are working in the industry, and also mindful of showing people outside of the industry what's possible. And joining me today is Paul Whymark, who is the Chief Operating Officer at Sonsei. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Lee. How are you today?
I am absolutely great today. The sun is shining and I'm chatting with you. And oh my goodness, I can't wait to dig into your career because now I'm going to have to read the brands that you have been working with over the years. So you've worked with Bupa, Boots, Fidelity, Churchill, RBS, RSA, Hastings, and you're now at Sonsei, which is also quite a different organisation to the organisations you have worked with. And Sonsei, everybody knows, has really made a name for itself during the pandemic. But I want to find out where your career started and how you got to where you are now. Before we do that, what is it that you do now? Just so that we know, what is it that you do as the COO of Sonsei? What does that mean?
Yeah, so we're an outsourcer, and as you know, and you mentioned it at the start, so everybody works from home. We've done that for 16 odd years now. It isn't our preferred, it is our only way of working. So we have around about 1,200 agents, literally across the whole of the UK and Northern Ireland, and we support 12 different clients, predominantly in the financial services. And my role is looking after the operation, looking after the workforce planning teams, the transformation teams, and also then the client side of things, making sure we deliver for the clients as well.
Yeah, make sure the customers are happy.
Exactly.
So I want to go back now. I know you've got a degree.
Yeah.
You've got a degree in English and American Studies.
Right. That's what I put on my CV. It's actually drama, theatre, and film, actually, but that nobody wants to employ an ex-drama student, so I put English and American History Studies because that was the department I was in.
Are you serious? You did a drama degree?
Yeah, so I did. I wanted to be an actor, so I did college. I did my A-levels in drama. I got to university. I did a play in my first term. It involved a soliloquy. This is all a bit weird, okay? Involved a soliloquy and a really high sort of steeped theatre. So it's like very, very sharp audience going straight up in front of you. And I did this speech, and I had this out-of-body experience where from the very top, I saw myself perform, and I thought, you're rubbish. You are utterly rubbish at this. And this was before the interval. So in the interval, I went to the director and I said to Deborah, I had this weird out-of-body experience. I think I'm not very good. And she said, I would go with your instincts, Paul. And from that day, I realized that acting was not going to be where I would make my money, and actually moved into producing and running theatre companies. And I guess that led me into where you're going to go next is kind of marketing. So it was like the whole project management, delivery of different theatre productions across the university and outside of the university as well.
Well, first of all, I had no idea about that. And anybody that's looking to bring people into the industry, it sounds like heading towards drama schools. Because the number of people I've interviewed on Career Talk that did a degree in drama of some descriptions. Anyway, marketing. Now that for me was one of the biggest surprises when I was doing a little bit of digging into your career history, was that you started life as a marketer.
Yeah, I again kind of found my way into that as well. So like most people, left university with a pile of debt, needed some money. Literally just walked into a very small insurance company and said, have you got a job? And they gave me a role in the post room. So I started, my first proper job was working and folding up policy wordings and stuffing them into envelopes and putting them through a franking machine. Whilst I was there, I was listening to people take calls, and I said, "Oh, that sounds more interesting. Can I have a go?" And they gave me about 30 minutes induction and stuck me on the phones. I did that for about 6 months, and then said to my leader, "Can I do something else?" And they said, "Well, you're a graduate, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Well, do you want to do a graduate development scheme?" And I said, "Yeah, that sounds cool." And they said, "Well, we've never done one before, so you're our first person." So I ended up working in all the different departments around this relatively small insurance business, including marketing. And that's where I ended up. And I did marketing for them for about a year. And then I did marketing, and I also did client management. So I've sort of come full circle in some ways. And one of my clients was Bupa. And Bupa said, "We like what you do for us. Do you want to come and work in marketing for us?" So I ended up working in marketing for them.
Wow. And interestingly, so when and people can see your career history on LinkedIn. So you were in Bupa, but that after a couple of years, you then became the marketing manager of Fidelity. And it's not until you start talking about your time at Boots that it starts to feel like actually there's contact centers involved.
Yeah.
At what point in those steps did you start to become really aware of contact centers?
Yeah, I mean, right back from the very start, when I said I kind of did don a headset and start taking calls. And then in marketing, always there was a close connection to the contact center, whether it's the delivery of sales or renewals or customer service. So I always had a kind of sideways glance across to the contact center world. But it was definitely in Boots. So Boots was, what a gig. Absolutely loved working there. Worked in head office in Nottingham, which is a fab city. And I ran a travel insurance business for Boots, which doesn't exist anymore, which is very very sad. But whilst there, my partner set up a contact center. So the partner that we used, which was Royal and Sun Alliance, who also I ended up working for. And they put a call center in to sell our travel insurance product. And I got really close into training those teams. So who Boots were, what the product was, why we thought we were very different in the travel insurance market. And then I just loved the interaction with Frontline. And it came to a point where I thought, you know what, I'm gonna change my direction here. And I saw a job advert. It's one of these, again, life is full of these great little quirky situations. So another partner that we had at Boots ran our assistance company. And I sat in front of the MD of this company and I said, "I've seen this advert in the Times." I mean, this is old school, isn't it? Adverts in the Times for a contact center manager for Churchill. And I think I really want to develop my career in insurance, but I specifically want to do contact centers. But I really don't have a huge amount of experience in running one. And he looked at me and he said, "This is quite bizarre, but nobody else knows this, but I'm selling my business to Churchill Insurance, and I'm the new sales and marketing director, and that role reports into me." Now, where's the chances of that happening? So I said, "Do I apply?" And he said, "Yeah, you should." So I applied. He didn't even interview me. He decided we knew each other too well. So other directors at Churchill interviewed me, and I got the job. And that was my first proper call center. I remember down in Bromley, walking onto the sales center floor and just looking across at this expanse of desks and going, "Oh my word, what have I done? I actually genuinely know nothing really about contact centers," and went on a very steep learning curve about what it meant to lead. Yeah.
I was going to say, how did you learn then? Because I mean, in today's career path, you would start as an advisor, which you've done.
Yeah.
You would then, team leader. You might then go into focusing on complaints or quality, maybe do a stint in resource planning. But you've gone straight, in essence, from advisor to contact center manager. So how did you learn about what was going on in your department?
Yeah, I actually went off and did a course So I sort of put myself, this is years ago, and Sitel actually, obviously not a brand anymore, they've changed, but Sitel ran a kind of a call center managers course, and worked with a chap who's still involved in call centers called Colin Stebbing. And he trained a group of us in terms of how contact centers work, and what the KPIs were, and the dynamics of leadership within contact centers. And that was invaluable to me. But also just very much, worked very closely with, as you say, like workforce planning, other call center managers, other team leaders, or center managers that were in Churchill, to just absorb as much as I possibly could. And I think, one of the things I think about being a leader, and particularly a large contact center, is about leadership skills are inherent, I think, in some people. And it's just about being with people. And that was a bit coming back to, what I enjoyed when I was doing the role with Boots and training people. It was very much around just interacting, doing the walk. I would start every day going up and down the entire contact center floor. It used to take me about half an hour to get to my desk, just engaging with agents. If they're on the phones, just making them wave at me. And then at the end of the day, I'll do exactly the same. I'd always sort of block out sort of 30 minutes, 45 minutes even sometimes, just to do that walk again. Sometimes it was a bit of a run, bye, 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 bye. But other times it was very much engaging and just talking with folk. And I find that's the bit that, I'm an extrovert. It's where I get my energy. I bounce it from other people and bounce it back. I sort of engage that way. And I think, that when I look at leaders who have inspired me, that's because of their personality, their way they engage with people. And I guess I've tried to pick up on that and then use it in my own career as well.
Is there a particular person that you've seen in your career that you've gone, do you know what, that you as a leader, there are some things there that I really like and want to develop in yourself?
Yeah, I can't think of a single one person, but I can think of probably about a dozen actually, who through my journeys, and I did chop and change organizations sort of every 3 years. My normal rule of thought was that was the point. I realized I didn't know anything and they needed to get rid of me. But it just gave me the chance to engage with lots of different people and pick up different styles and different techniques and just how they worked. So, right back from my days with Bupa right through to even here at Sonsei, looking at how people lead and picking up on their traits and understanding their skill set. You just never stop learning in that way.
And there's a couple of things I want to pick up on there. One of the things you said was that when you were running the contact center and you would go into the office and you would take your half an hour to get to your seat. Now that you're at Sonsei, that's all remote working, is that something that you've seen we've been able as an industry to take that virtual in a similar way? I'm going to assume you're a big advocate of doing it virtually, but that must be something that's been quite an interesting transition to see.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I do miss and I love it. And when I was judging a few months back for the UK Nationals, I love the feeling of walking onto a contact centre floor, the buzz, the energy, that feeling is just fantastic.
And everybody I talk to says that's the bit that they love and love being in the office for that.
I think this is a kind of like a sixth sense almost. You know exactly when you walk on the contact center floor where what this place is like, how you can just smell it, or sense it. You just sort of absorb it into your body. And when you walk into a great contact center, because you just feel the buzz, and it's not just the murmurings of 1,000 conversations taking place; it's the energy that actually exists within that room. Now, in a virtual world, that's very different. Okay, so and my role's different now. So look, I have contact center managers, I have contact center directors to lead and drive, that environment within their teams. But I did yesterday. I did the town hall with half of our team leaders the day before I did it with the other half, and I love on the screen, because it's absolute number one condition. Cam always on. All right, that's not even a second thought in our business. That it cam on all the time, and just seeing all the different faces and everything like that, and interacting with people and having still a bit of a laugh and a joke and what have you. You can drive a similar level of engagement and energy, but you need to work harder at it. It doesn't come as naturally maybe as just that journey around the contact center at the end of the day.
It's not as easy, but I'm with you. You know, here at the CCMA, we've always been a virtual business, and maybe some folks saw it at the awards. You know, we're also a very close knit team, and everything we do is through Teams, building up those relationships and being there for each other. The other thing that you talked about was you being an extrovert, and I do think that there are traits as an extrovert that you talked right at the start about, that sometimes it's born into you. You know, you've got some of those people skills. And at Boots, I mean, you had some interesting stuff that you were doing when you were at Boots before you took responsibility for contact center. But you were doing TV interviews, radio interviews. You were out there doing stuff like that, which I think from a leader's perspective, if you're comfortable being out there, then sometimes it's more comfortable to be able to lead whole teams, especially the size of teams that you were then going on to lead.
Yeah, and I think going back to that training, albeit I still class myself as a failed actor, the ability to stand up, present, have a presence about you is a key part. I mean, that when you look at great leaders, there is a sort of charisma that attaches to them. I'm not saying I have that same level of charisma as great leaders. Well, no, that'd be presumptuous. But there is something that you need to be able to engage and have that ability to, communicate to whether it be 50, 100,000 people in a room. I mean, we saw that on Monday night. You know, when the stage is filled with the people that we had in it. Just look, not just hosts and people making the awards, but the folk who came on. I love people who come in and they're just so engaged and they just want the rest of the crowd. They want to whip them up. You can see that, and that's one of the things I love about the contact center industry, because there are lots and lots of this, really sometimes rich and raw talent that is coming through, which I just don't think you get. You think of other departments. I used to think no offense to anybody who works in IT or finance or HR, but I think contact centers, they just have integral, it's just part of what we are, that you get this sort of raw talent of leadership coming through.
Yes, and I agree. I was talking to someone the other day who said that you look at the retail sector. The retail sector is not as engaging and fun and friendly as you get in contact centers. I appreciate that's vertical as opposed to horizontal, but yeah, it's a great place to be in contact centers. So tell us about your time at Churchill then, because how big was that initial contact center that you took over?
It's probably about 400 seats, and it was purely sales, and a very small outbound team as well. So that was kind of my first introduction to outbound. We were outbounding at renewal stage to try and attract customers to stay with us. It lasted for about 18 months, because Churchill was bought by RBS. And RBS was Direct Line Group, because Direct Line Group at that stage were owned by the Royal Bank of Scotland. And they had a centre in Croydon, they had a centre in Bromley, and they started to amalgamate those contact centres, and different leaders took over. And I actually moved out and ended up back in marketing. So I ended up back in marketing for about 6 months, and all I did was try and find a way back into contact centres. So I absolutely caught the bug, said this is where I want to be. and moved actually within Direct Line Group up into Peterborough to go and run a contact center there, which was really cool. Really enjoyed it. But that was also the time of RBS's demise, and I just felt at that point, and I got a call, and it was to work at Royal and Sun Alliance, which was literally just the other side of the city of Peterborough, so I didn't have to move. And I thought, yeah, be the rat, leave the sinking ship, but go across to RSA, which was a fantastic organisation. Really enjoyed my time there. They really get people, which I love about the culture, and that's a culture that, again, even in Sonsei today, if you don't truly have a people first culture, then one, I'm not interested in you because you're not going to float my boat. But secondly, I just don't think you drive the right business outcomes, the right customer outcomes, unless you put your people first, and that includes everybody in the organisation, including your frontline teams in the contact centre.
That's really interesting, and you're so right, and especially because everything you've talked about so far has been in a sales environment, and so not surprising with coming from marketing, going into sales, and like you said, a lot of it was outbound, but you must have been doing something right at Churchill RBS for you to then get the job at RSA. So what do you think that you were doing right that has meant that you've been successful at that level? I appreciate you're at a different level now, but at that level, what were you doing that was right?
I like everybody in contact centers, you live by your KPIs. So you make sure that you deliver against the targets that have been set for you. I mean, obviously they've got to be realistic and they've got to be sensible in the way that they're built. But I always say this role in some ways is the best and the worst, okay? Because everything is measured. There is a KPI for the number of coughs per minute, probably. It's just non-stop. Every single aspect, whether it be sales, retention, customer service, customer satisfaction, speed of answer, blah, blah, blah. There is books and books and books on this. And just understanding how you're going to achieve your KPIs, delivering against them, and delivering those KPIs through people. So what I mean by that, obviously, you've got contact center managers, your team leaders, and then your frontline agents who actually do the job. And then creating the right coaching culture to make sure that the frontline agents understand what it is they need to do, are coached in and developed appropriately to be able to deliver against those targets. And then ultimately, you then, me as a leader, will stand by the KPIs that we're achieving. And that has never changed. That's exactly the same in the job I do today as it was in walking into that contact center floor in Churchill best part of 20 years ago. And I think that, again, comes down to leadership as well, in the way that you present those KPIs and the way that you promote the ways of working that will achieve them. And I guess that is the reason why I moved across to work with RSA.
Tell us about your time at RSA, the opportunities that you had there.
Yeah, like every role, you join and then day one it completely changed. So originally it was going to be claims, sales, and customer service, and then they had a restructure, and I looked after just sales and customer service. But I moved into a slightly different area with RSA, which is around supporting affinity schemes. So this was the likes of Tesco, Marks and Spencer's, Ford, Volvo, and then at the end also Argos and John Lewis. And I loved that role because it not only gave me the chance to, again, manage contact centers in an insurance world, but actually work with some of the most fantastic brands in the UK. And all of them are very different, but really passionate about the customer service they did. So Tesco with the ability to understand customers through the club card. John Lewis just goes into intricate detail about how to develop an insurance product and then how they want to service it. Marks and Spencer, another great brand, and working with M&S Money. So I just loved it because every day was different and working with those different brands. And I would have very happily have stayed there. But
so why did you move?
because of Brighton and Hove Albion Football Club. Yeah.
Go on.
Well, I was in exile out of the promised land, which is Sussex, for the best part of 20 years. So I grew up in Sussex, went to my first Brighton and Hove Albion game when I was 7 years old, fell in love with the club and the football team, and then followed them, but spent best part of 25 years in different parts of the UK, miles from Sussex. And then when the opportunity came to come and work at Hastings Direct, I went, well, that's 30 miles from Brighton. I'm doing that. And literally signed my sort of job application, or the letter, and got my season ticket in the same hour. And what's nice is I still go to football. I still sit next to the same guy who I started going to football with when I was 45 years ago. So me and a chap called Andy, we take our sons now, but he used to be me, him, and his dad, and standing on the terraces. So that was the pure and utterly, totally selfish reason to move out of RSA. But also, that's partly not true. Also because I was very excited by the story at Hastings. So gone through an MBO on a huge growth trajectory, and it really was astronomical. Sort of 500,000 customers when I joined, over 2 million when I left. Trying to manage a contact center that within 7 years quadrupled was just incredible and a great journey. But alongside it was in Sussex, so that really helped.
So from your time at Hastings, and I'm sure we could go into lots of talk around what you did at Hastings, and maybe there's some things that you're able to reflect on. But from there you went to Sonsei. Sonsei is very different to everything you've talked about so far. Why? What was it that you thought, you know what, that is a new challenge and I want to do it? What was it?
So I had Sonsei as an outsourcer at Hastings Direct. So I got a real insight to the business, how they operated, what the culture was, and what the leadership team was here at Sonsei. And I just really liked it. I really liked the people. I liked the ethos. I liked the idea of instead of what we do is we find great people and we bring work to them as opposed to the other way around. And just the idea that working at Sonsei means that maybe some people who just couldn't get to work, so due to their personal circumstances, whether that's because of where they live, geographically, whether it's because of a disability, whether because they're a carer for other people in their house, the idea of doing a full-time contact center role is just something that they just would not be able to do. Whereas obviously working from home just opens up all those opportunities for folk. And I just love that ethos. So I just, when my time at Hastings came to an end, literally the first people I spoke to was Steve Mosser at Sonsei, and said, Steve, I really want to come and work for you. I don't know whether you could get a job or, there was nothing advertised. I just said, I just want to work for you. And they said no. So I had to twist arms and bribe them in any way that I could. And eventually they said yes. So no, I definitely just wanted to be here. I also wanted to work from home. So I got fed up with commuting. Not that where I live to the office in Hastings is far, but it's still sort of, that's an hour out of my day. And I start my day every day exactly the same way, which is my little dog and me go for a walk in the woods just over the road. And I think this is so much better than commuting. This is so much better than fighting my way through traffic, turning up at a car park, realizing I've missed the last space, parking half a mile down the road and walking in. It would probably be raining. And then they would have the audacity to charge me £4 for a cup of coffee upon entry. And I'm like, I am so pleased to have knocked that on the head. That commute time is now my time, and I choose to do it differently. One, I sleep for longer, and two, I walk the dog.
But what's really interesting is that that potentially, because of the kind of personality that you've described, had you been working from home back in the early part of your career, it might not have suited you because you love the buzz and it's almost like you get to, maybe for you've got to a point where it's like, yeah, I've loved that, been there, done that, and I'm now ready for something different.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, as I say, I still get the buzz from sitting in front of, I will go in front of agents as well in team meetings and sessions. I engage, as I say, with my team leader population as well. I still get it. It is different, it is not quite the same. And I still like it when I go out and, I visit our clients and they will have contact centers and we'll be on their floors as well. I enjoy that. But yeah, maybe that element of I've been it and done it. And so I can experience it again in maybe a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also seems to be one of the things that's driven you over the years is the love for what you're doing. And I know there'll be some people that might map out their career. I want to work for that brand and I want to do this job, but maybe that's the route they go. And maybe they're really happy with that. Maybe they're not, because they're going for something different. But what really strikes me is that throughout your career, you've done stuff that you've really enjoyed doing.
Oh, the minute you don't enjoy it, leave. I mean, 100%. All right, you spend more time. I mean, wrongly, but you do spend more time working than you do with your family, don't you? So if you're coming to work, if Monday morning is not exciting you to come in, then it's time to do something different. Now, I know that's very flippant and it's not as easy as just like, oh, fine, I'll go and do something different. But yeah, I think that's, if your energy isn't there, if you don't have the passion to do what you're doing, then time to go and try and find something else to drive that passion. Because, work drives so much of what ends up as, the way you leave the work at the end of the day, and then the way you interact with your family, the way you take it into the weekend. If that's driving a negative in you, then Lee, don't do it. I mean, you wouldn't do what you do if you didn't love it. And I know that because of the interaction with you. I can't imagine it. I know I've been happy in jobs, and I know as a result of being unhappy in jobs, I've started to go and do something else. Yeah.
And it's interesting that even if you're not happy in that particular role in the contact center, it could be there's another role in the contact center. It could be it's a different contact center. It could be it's a different brand. It could be a different industry. But there's so many different things that you can do in the contact center. And if you love the environment but don't enjoy what you're doing, then there are opportunities.
It's the beauty of working in a contact center is you get to know the customers, you get to know the products, you get to know them intimately, inside out. That experience that people have means that their career paths can go in so many different directions. So it doesn't, as you say, it could be through leadership, going into team leader, going into contact center manager, etc., and working your way through that contact center. But blimey, the experience that people have in that contact center means that the rest of the business is suddenly opened up. So whether it's in marketing or workforce planning, or, as you say, quality, or even in the world of insurance, in compliance roles and things like that. So many people I know, particularly, I mean, my background's pretty much all insurance, but so many people I know who are in completely different career paths outside of contact centers, but started there because there's a grounding of knowledge and expertise. Perfect. So there could be no better place, particularly, as I say, in insurance businesses, to start your career.
What's the best career advice you were ever given?
Be good at what you do, then be seen by people that you're good at what you do, and then lastly, be seen by the right people that they see you and you're good at what you do.
Nice. And to play that back into, if you're happy, then you're probably good at what you do.
Yeah. Where else does your motivation come from?
Interesting. What do you wish you'd learned sooner?
I generally don't think I've got anything. I have no regrets on anything that I've done. every different role has had different challenges, but I've enjoyed them all in different ways. I don't think there is anything. It's like that. What would the older Paul say to the younger Paul? I don't know. I just do what you're doing, and I probably, like I say, if you're not enjoying it, go and do something else. Follow your dreams, follow your passions. And if they don't work out, like mine didn't, I realised at the age of 21, I am not going to be a world-class actor, despite having a look-alike to Martin Clunes, as I was told on Monday. Thank you.
I see that.
Yeah. Then maybe you do have to just reset what you're going to do and go and do something else. But if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Yeah.
I love that. Now, Paul, I could sit and chat with you. As you know, we've spent quite a long time chatting in the past. I could sit and talk to you about your career, going into loads more details, but I'm going to ask you 3, in theory, quick fire questions.
Okay, I'll make sure they're quick, I promise you.
Okay, what photo have you got on your desk?
I don't have any photos on my desk. However, this is an inspiration. I don't know if it always works well on camera. This is my grandfather's grandfather. So I think that's great grandfather. And if you look really closely, can you see he has no hands? And he's holding a pint of beer. And he had an accident. I said it would be quick. He had an accident in Suffolk. He lost both his hands in a farming accident. He got compensation. He moved to Portsmouth. He opened a pub, and he ran a pub in Portsmouth. And you also think you can't really get it on the picture. I get it there. He wears a red fez. Who wouldn't go to a pub to see a guy pulling pints with 2 hooks instead of hands, wearing a red fez? I would personally. I think that's brilliant. But that's just I have that picture next to me because that's inspiration. So whenever things are not looking great, there's an alternative. There is an alternative.
Do you know what? You can tell that he's got your bright personality and determination. Absolutely. So next question: what is your go-to pastime?
I've mentioned it. So my passion is football. So taking my son and going and meeting my mates down at the Amex and watching them play. Outside of that, I just like getting out. I like the fact we've got a dog is brilliant because that gives me trips. Walk. We live in a beautiful part of the world, so the South Downs are literally the beach is just down the road. Great. I love getting out and getting out this office and feeling the fresh air and how beautiful it is at the moment as well.
And that kind of answers my last question. What would you like to spend more time doing?
All of the above. Yeah.
All of the above. Paul, thank you so much for joining me on Career Talk. You've been an absolute star, and wishing you the very best of luck for your future career. Who knows where you'll end up next.
Brilliant, Lee. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Take care. See you soon. If you want to watch all of our career talks, they are all available on ccma.org.uk, and we'll see you soon.